Hello everyone, this is Merced with the Stronghold Games, and this is my Amber Steel Song deck profile. So I think with set champs coming up, this is probably one of the better choices to play. I think that it's probably one of the best decks, if not the best deck in the meta. You have other decks like Blue-Red, Blue-Steel, Ruby Amethyst is still very solid. There's some really cool new decks that just came out, but I think that Steel Song still is a very powerful deck that has a lot of lines that can really just overwhelm your opponents at no matter what stage of the game. So I guess the first thing I want to talk about is the shift lines. So the shift line I'm going with for now is Cinderella and Robin Hood. And notice how Queen is kind of absent. I think Queen is kind of vulnerable. I never liked it as a shift target because let's say you even go turn 2 shift Queen and you quest with it. There's many characters early on that have 3 willpower and that could easily just challenge it and you kind of just lost 2 cards. The best plays were like turn 2 shift Queen, play a removal action, and you never really want to do Whole New World with Queen. So I don't like it as a shift option. It's possible I can still go back to it. What Queen does offer is it's able to challenge daisies pretty well early, so maybe that is appealing, but I think that I've been happy with these shift lines so far. Obviously Robin Hood has been a staple since set 3. I don't really see it changing too much. I guess Medusa is always an issue, and it kind of feels bad when you get Medusa on your shift Robin Hood, but that's just part of the deal. But Big Cindy's back. I didn't have this card in set 4 meta. Now I have it back in set 5 meta because I think she's excellent in the mirror match. Embarrassingly enough, I did cut Cinderella at the beginning, just trying lists without it, but I quickly realized that was a big mistake. One of the strengths of this deck is being able to sing songs early, and turn 1 Little Cinderella, obviously does it. It's one of the best characters to do it, and being able to shift and threaten Big Cinderella is a very big deal. And I've seen Big Cinderella take over the mirror match in many scenarios, and I think it's going to be a lot more common because since this deck got a lot more tools, it might be more popular than it has been in the past. So I'm playing 2 Big Cindy's for now. I think she's great. And I'm just trying out some more games to see how good she really is. Okay, now the biggest upgrade, perhaps, there's a couple, but one of the upgrades, obviously, from Shimmering Skies is going to be Daisy Duck. Now, when I first started putting together the list for Amber Steel, I had 4, but I think that's actually a mistake. I like playing 3 now because being an Inkable is an actual cost of playing Daisy Duck. So there's many times where like you feel obligated to keep her in your, like let's say you have a shift line with Robin Hood, you have to keep kind of the Daisy Duck in your opening hand because like it's, I guess you could send her away, but it's always kind of awkward. So she, there's a real cost of playing her. So I do like just 3, but she does set up some very aggressive lines. So I think being able to like go Daisy Duck into Smee or into Piglet is already a lot of lore very early on. And of course, if you have your singers like Cinderella early and you have your Ursula, your Ariels, if you set those up earlier as well, you're going to be able to kind of clear off their board. And Daisy Duck can easily get 4 to 6 lore in a game if you play on turn 1. Pretty easy. Piglet, I'm still testing. Like I said, I like the aggressive dimension he adds to this deck. I think that it's maybe not so much. I guess you could play him turn 2, but even in the later turns, like being able to just play him post Whole New World, he's a pretty cheap card, and then be able to just get the 3 lore out of him, it's a pretty big deal. And of course, Smee, he's been a staple since set 3. People try to cut him. I think that's a mistake. I love 4 Smees in the deck, and it just sets up your aggressive lines. When you don't have your singers, that's kind of your plan B, kind of just kind of go aggro, and you can just overwhelm decks easily most of the time. Okay, I love this card, Vanessa, Ursula, whatever preference is. She is great. I love playing her on turn 2. I may even consider going to a 4th one because I think she's that good. But I have her at 3 for now because I think I prefer Smee a little bit more on turn 2 than Vanessa, but it kind of depends. I don't know. It's hard to say. But she's great because she has some really cool synergy with Rapunzel. Like and you'll see, I'll talk about the Zeus in a bit, but she has some really cool synergy with Rapunzel in the sense that she has 4 toughness, so like many times what you can do is actually set up a line where you can challenge into something with 3 willpower, and then follow up with a Rapunzel and draw 3 cards. So it's little things like that she does well. Being able to sing a Zeus early also is very strong to clear off their board and just to stop, to kind of let your characters kind of quest at will. So I could definitely see playing 4, but right now I have her at 3, but she's an excellent card for the deck. Okay, and then now we have aerials, 4 aerials. There's just some cards you never mess with, and this is one of them. Like, you can never just play this deck without 4 aerials. She is pretty much the Steel Song poster girl, I guess you could say. She does everything you want in the deck. She's inkable, for starters. She is Singer 5, so she gets to sing Whole New World. She gets to search for the Whole New World, and she gets to search for the rest of your songs as well. Never, ever play less than 4. I think that's enough said. Now, the other new addition, and it took me a little bit of convincing, but I guess now I kind of feel like a fool, is Pete. Very good card. I think 4 is the correct number. I can definitely see him playing 3 instead, because I don't feel like it's something you want to play turn 3. I still think there's other cards you'd rather be playing turn 3. Like, I'd rather, for example, maybe if I have a couple characters out, I'd rather move something on turn 3 rather than play Pete. But he's definitely a good card to play in the mirror match. He's excellent, because a lot of the mirror match comes down to being able to get rid of the opposing threats on the board. And I think post B prep, pre-B prep, like if you just play them the turn before they B prep, that's kind of backbreaking sometimes. And it definitely has come up for me a lot. Like, if you're playing against Ruby Amethyst, for example, you start counting their ink. It's like, okay, they have the B prep next turn, possibly just slam a Pete. And even getting like 1 extra turn to quest your characters is a very, very big deal. So I'm a big fan of Pete. I don't think you play him on turn 3, but you do want to have access to Pete, mid to late game. So I think 4 right now is a good call. Also, what makes it easier to make that decision is that he's inkable, so that's a very big deal. Okay, now for the 4 drops, I have 4 Rapunzels. I think she's awesome. I've seen some people trying to cut Rapunzels from the deck. I think that's a huge mistake. One of the things that I don't like about this deck, I love Steel Song, by the way, but one of my gripes with the deck is that if you don't hit Whole New World at some point in the game, you can easily gas out because you're shifting, spending extra resources, just trying to get some extra lore in. So if you can't gas up with Whole New World, you need a plan B. And that's Rapunzel's in here for. There's many times where I've set up like Ursula lines where I'll go like sing Ursula, sing Storm Rage on, target Ursula, and then Rapunzel, draw 2 cards. And it's a very strong sequence in my opinion. So I think that playing less than 4 Rapunzels is a mistake. She's inkable, so if you draw her early on, you can just easily ink her, obviously. And she's great. I think she's still a very good call in this meta. I don't see her going away anytime soon. I think she's still an excellent card to play in set 5 meta as well. So I think Prince Naveen is the other great addition, obviously, for the deck. I was trying 3 to 4 Naveens. I think that's a mistake. I think 2 is the correct number because it is a card that you need to have an actual song for him to get any value out of. And like playing Naveen and playing, for example, like a Bare Necessities isn't that strong of a play, or Naveen into Storm Rage on isn't that strong of a play. So I think that 2 is the correct call because let's say in many scenarios where your opponent, they know any better, they'll remove your singers. They'll get rid of, Robin Hood's hard to get rid of, but they can get rid of Robin Hood. They can get rid of Ariel. Anything that can sing the Whole New World. So when that does happen, I think having a card like Naveen is going to be really important to just play and gas up all over again. So even going Naveen into Zeus on turn 4 is a very strong sequence because now you left with the singer and then you have a quester as well. You just have a body and you kind of play the Zeus for free. So I think it's great at 2. I don't like playing anything more than that because obviously being an inkable is a real cost. If he was inkable, we can talk playing more than 2, but I think that the fact that he's an inkable makes it easy for me to just play 2 and no more than that. Obviously, Whole New World, there's nothing really more to say. The card is the centerpiece of the deck. Never play less than 4. It's like the Ariel. It's like 4 Ariel, 4 Whole New World is how you start any Steel Song list. So yeah, never cut this card. You need it to win the game in many scenarios, so definitely don't want to mess with that. Okay, now the next point of contention might be the Grab Your Swords. I only like 1. I think there's many times that I've played, for example, Ruby Amethyst, Blue Red, where I've hated having the card in my hand. So I could see if the meta gets very hyper aggro heavy, if that, maybe it's like it was at the beginning of the meta. I could see maybe playing two, but I think one's the right call. I think you still want one in the deck, but I just hate drawing it most of the time. Like many times it just doesn't really do a whole lot. I don't know. I could be wrong, but I prefer to just play Zeus because obviously these are inkable cards, right? So there's only X amount you can play in your deck. I prefer a 4-1 split of Zeus and Grabber Sword, but I've seen a lot of people play, like, for example, 3 and 2. I think the fact that Zeus is 4 and you can sing it with Ursula is a very big deal. So going turn 2 Ursula, turn 3 Zeus, banish your guy is a very good line. So I think this is the right call. It gets rid of many threats in the format. It gets rid of Maui. It gets rid of Daisy Duck. A lot of really important threats. Can get rid of opposing, Rapunzel's, Naveen's. I mean, y'all know Zeus, right? It's been a staple for the past few sets. So I like 4 of this card a lot. I could be wrong, but I think it's great. Okay, we have 4 Strength of a Raging Fire. This card is it's great. I mean, it's inkable. That's already the big selling point for the card. It does kind of become dead against decks like Ruby Amethyst sometimes, where like they're able to banish a lot of your characters and you trade 1 for 1 with you a lot. So I think that in those situations you want to ink it, but the fact that it's inkable is a very big deal. It's a great removal spell in the mirror match. So I think that playing 4 is the correct call. I don't really see many lists playing less than 4. I think that's a mistake. And then you have 4 Storm John. You can play 3. I like playing 4 because you're playing 4 Cinderella, so still going turn 1 Cindy, turn 2, get rid of your guy, draw a card. It's still a very strong line. Like I said earlier, I think that there's some really cool lines you can set up with like Ursula, Sing, Storm, hit Ursula, and then heal with Rapunzel to draw like 2-3 cards. It's a very powerful line when you don't have your whole new world, and it's one that I've done plenty of times. So I think that I like 4, but I could see playing less. And then you have these songs here, Bare Necessities. Now, there's a point of contention. I have some buddies who like playing 3 to 4. I don't like that because you don't want to play this card turn 2. Like, I think that's a mistake. I think the name of the game with Amber Steel Song is get on board, get your singers going, get your aggression going, and then you can follow up with some removal actions, removal spells. So I think Bare Necessities at 2 is the correct call. This is one of those cards you want to play like when you're about to get beat prepped, when you need to rip out maybe a Grabber Sword from a steel deck or something. If you play it post Whole New World after you've given them a new hand, you can play Bare Necessities and kind of take out some of their follow-up removal. So I think it's important to play some, but I just think that 3 to 4 is probably too much. I think 2 is the correct call, but I could be convinced otherwise. And of course, you have World's Greatest Criminal Mind. I think that in the mirror match, I've seen a lot more Cinderellas being played. Maui's, of course, has been a headache from day one with this deck. And of course, you have threats like Tamatoa, Sisu out of blue-red that are kind of annoying to deal with. So I think having 1 is good. It's inkable, so it's great. I could definitely see playing 2 if the meta calls for it. But for now, I've been pretty happy with just 1 Greatest Criminal Mind. It has come up a lot, so I think that's the right one. So that's my Amber Steel Song deck profile. Once again, I think this is an excellent call. Right now, I think it's going to be one of the best decks for the rest of Set 5 meta. There's many ways you can kind of build this deck, but really what I consider the core is like Robin Hood Shift Line, Cinderellas. I would consider Ariel a pretty core card, Rapunzel, and some amount of Zeus and Whole New World, and of course Strength of a Raging Fire, and that's been true since like Set 3. So, but many spots you can kind of mess around with, but I think that it's well positioned right now in the meta. It's just a very powerful deck, even against your worst matchup like blue-red, when you're really bad ones. I still think that you can just have draws that can just overwhelm, and it really doesn't matter what they do. Now, what's missing from the deck now is things like alternative lore gain, like Sleepy's Flute. There's been some times where I missed the card, but trust me, like when you draw that in your opening hand with this deck, like that is just it's a really big feels bad. So I could see playing some number of them in the future. Right now I don't have it though. I gotta do some more testing to see if it's the correct call. But yeah, for now, I just think that's it's not kind of where I want to be. You don't want to play a turn two, like trust me, like you just don't want, to, especially in the mirror match. It's not a good play turn two. Other cards I'm considering also are the Rooster, Alan Adele, I think that the card's name is. It was great for me initially. I'd cut it. It's probably fine. The issue is that at your 4-drop spot you have these, which is already pretty hard to compete with. So it's hard to justify it because even if you go like Holy World and then play the Rooster, like the thing about that card is that it incentivizes you to ink more and play songs to kind of gain lore, to play multiple songs before it gets banished, because they will target it. But this deck doesn't want to ink very much. Like I think you're fine like at 5 or 6 ink you're done, because a lot of your singers kind of are ink for you in many ways. So I think that it's a card that I really don't I'm not playing right now. I don't know. It could change. My opinion could change later on. But right now I'm not playing the Rooster. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. This is my thoughts on the deck. I do want to get some gameplay videos coming up very soon with my buddy Rip Lungs. So hopefully you guys can look forward to that. All right, thank you.